The prosecution rested its case today in the murder trial of Eddie Ray Routh, the former Marine accused of murdering the real American sniper, Chris Kyle, and Chad Littlefield. Prosecutors rested after 4.5 days of presenting witnesses and evidence, including Eddie Ray Routh's videotaped confession. And today, prosecutors showed more video from the moments after Eddie Ray Routh was apprehended and placed in the back of a police car. Routh can be heard on camera saying, "I've been so paranoid and schizophrenic today, I don't even know what to think of the world. I don't know if I'm insane." After the prosecution rested its case, the defense called Eddie Ray Routh's mother. Jody Routh testified that she had begged the Veterans Hospital not to release her son on January 25th, 2013, the week before Eddie Ray Routh killed Chris Kyle and Chad Littlefield. Joining me now is Diana Hunt, who was inside the courtroom today covering the trial for the Dallas Morning News, and Michael Snipes, a former Dallas County judge and current criminal defense lawyer. Diana, what was the reaction in the courtroom today for Eddie Ray Routh's mother's testimony, and how long did she testify?
She testified a good 20 to 30 minutes, I would say. I didn't time it exactly, but she was very stoic. She didn't. She looked like as if she were about to break into tears at one point, and she sort of shook it off and kept going. Her son looked at her, looked away. There wasn't one of those moments where their eyes really locked in place, but she tried really, she tried to humanize her son, talking about him playing Little League and football, being happy-go-lucky, and then describing how much he had changed after he got back from the military, after he came home from the Marines. She said he was a different person.
And Judge Snipes, I would think this was the defense's attempt to try to humanize the defendant and connect to those 10 women jurors.
Yeah, it definitely was. And you know, as you look at this trial, there's no question that Eddie Routh was mentally disturbed, mentally ill, however you want to put it. The question is, was his mental illness, whatever his mental issues were, did that rise to the level of insanity? And that's what the jury's going to have to decide.
And Judge, it has to be, as I understand it in Texas law, the simple test for it is, at the moment that the crime is committed, do you know the difference between right and wrong, and do you know that this thing you're doing is wrong? Is that basically the test?
That is the test. It's really not as complicated as you might think. The decision-making process is very complicated. It's interesting, from Routh's statements to the police, at first blush, you would think that his statements that he did know the difference between right and wrong would be compelling and inculpatory. But if you think about it, if you assume arguendo that he was insane at the time of the offense and at the time that he was being interviewed, how is him saying that he was sane at that time, how is that going to make any difference? You can't ask an insane person whether he's sane or not. Perhaps more telling in the case, as far as the confession goes, is that he expressed remorse for what he had done. And that kind of human feeling is consistent with being sane.
Diana Hunt, do we know if the defense intends to call the defendant to the witness stand?
We don't know, and sometimes that can be a very last-minute decision once they've listened to how things have gone over and weighed what how the jury is responding. I would be surprised if he testified. He's now under medication and is not going to be displaying some of the signs of mental illness that he was displaying earlier. But you can never, I wouldn't wager either way on that one.
Judge Snipes, what's your guess about whether the defendant will testify?
I would guess that he would not. Of course, that's up to him and up to the defense team. But despite what you tell the jury about following the law and so forth, if he gets on the stand and makes a bad impression, they could be so afraid of him that they might render a verdict of guilty, even though intellectually they might think that he was not guilty by reason of insanity.
Yeah, and Diana, they have these psychiatrists' findings that he had psychosis, was mentally ill. They've already got that in the record of the case, and as you say, if the medications are working well when he's testifying, he may not appear terribly mentally ill at all, and jury may make their decision based on the way he appears in the witness stand as opposed to what he was doing that day.
Right. He also has exhibited signs of speaking out, saying sort of shocking things in the past, even when he was medicated. So it would be quite a risk for them to put him on the stand. I do know they're going to go extensively through his medical history, through the treatment he got at the VA, or the lack of treatment, as his mother said, and I'm sure we'll get a number of expert witnesses testifying to his mental state at the time.
Judge Snipes, if he was found not guilty by reason of insanity, what kind of action would the judge take? What kind of sentence? I mean, do we call it a sentence at that point?
No, it wouldn't be a sentence. He'd be committed to one of the mental institutions in Texas, such as Vernon, where he could stay for the rest of his life, although he could be released if he was found to be sane at some point.
Diana Hunt and Judge Michael Snipes, thank you both for joining me tonight. Coming up, can you imagine what would happen if someone was crazy enough to yell at First Lady Michelle Obama?